I'm going to go to the next question about what you all have a lot of really great initiatives going on, but I'm sure there's challenges as well. So the next question is about the challenges or opportunities, if you want to focus on those, of being a rural woman specifically, being a social entrepreneur. And you can unpack any part of that, being a social entrepreneur, being a woman, being both of those things. What are the challenges you're facing to the work that you're doing in your communities? And maybe let's this time go Nora, Noreen, Fardowsa, just switch it up.
I've been thinking about this question for a couple of days, and it's kind of hard to pin down because I think a lot of the challenges that I face are kind of internalized things, limits that I have placed on myself that I'm really trying to push against all the time. I have a young son, he's 3. So and my spouse is really supportive and does a lot of the caretaking when I go out of town. But there's still kind of that pressure of like, I need to be a really good mother. And I try and I love my kid and, but there's a push and pull in dividing my time and making sure that I'm present and leaving time and energy for my family as well. Because when I start working, I'm a perfectionist. I want it to be good. I want it to be done quickly. I want it to be out there. I really thought that I would have my website up in February, and then I thought it'd be up in April, and then I thought it'd be up in May. And now I'm really focusing on the newsletter because I can't do everything at once. So that has been a challenge. And I do think that that kind of self-talk is gendered. And, I do often feel like I have to prove myself, like I have to, I'm usually a soft-spoken person, and I've been giving a lot of presentations to community groups and have been working on projecting confidence, even though I am not a loud, outgoing voice. And it's hard for me to be one of the few women in a room. It's new, it's kind of awkward. But I, am trying to embrace that, especially as I'm starting to fundraise. That's presenting new challenges I've been thinking about a lot, like being allowed into rooms or invited into rooms with people who have more money than I'm used to, and just trying to be who I am there and ask for money, even though, there's a lot of history behind wealth distribution that I try not to get too tangled up in. But I'm aware of inequities, and it's different to be kind of going into rooms you haven't been before, and remembering my mission, and that it's not about me and how I feel right now. It's about trying to get this program funded and trying to get people to understand the problem and what is solutions journalism? Why am I the person to advance this mission? And so that's kind of how it shows up for me.
Yeah, thank you. Very honest. Go ahead, Noreen.
Yeah, so one little tip for ladies out there too, and is when you grow older, you became less, I'm less fearful. I'm just like, I remember that voice of a 30-year-old, 25-year-old, like, I'm not enough this or that. Well, you know what? You get to a certain point and you're like, you know what? I'm fine. And so I think kind of living in agriculture, I show up at the meetings, and go there. Like yesterday, I'm probably the only female farmer in a bunch of dairy with Organic Valley, but they're like, oh yeah, well, that's just Noreen, you know, she's gonna bounce in there. So I think sometimes what I perceived as being so alone or whatever, I kind of use that to my benefit, honestly. When we're doing negotiations on the farm for contracts or something, I'll usually get a better price than my husband. Just because I'm not used to working with women trying to negotiate. So they're like, oh my gosh, please don't give me her. Because I'm like, well, you know, what about this? And I use it. You know, if I have to go get a part at RDO, they're like, oh wow, okay. But they farm service agency now, the women are excited to see me because, you know, I'm like not one of the guys. And we talk about everything. So I think you can also champion that wherever you are, because you know, sometimes I'd be in a meeting, 200 male farmers. And, you know, I'd have a couple of older, grumpy people, and they would say, you know, well, what does she know? Well, I'm like, well, you know, it's not my issue, it's their issue. So you got to kind of remove yourself from that too. I think I personalized a lot when I bounced into the farm community. I think they were like, wow, she hangs her coat on the wrong side of the church, for heaven's sakes. She's, you know, I just kind of like, I didn't know what the rules were, you know, and personally, I don't care about the rules anymore because I'm going to show up. I'm here and I'm not going away until they carry me out of here. So I just figure a lot of that stuff sometimes is your own stuff, you know, like if I'm in that room, I mean, I can imagine a 21-year-old, you know, bouncing into a room with 300, 200 farmers, but just show up and wear a nice shirt and just do it, because those limitations sometimes are yourself and what you think people, and they don't even notice sometimes. They didn't notice that maybe, you know, one of the kids had spilled something on my shirt or whatever, for heaven's sake. So I think, you know, just dive in there and just do it, and don't miss any opportunities either. You know, if somebody invites you, sometimes like last night, I was supposed to go to this author event and I'm like, oh, I could think of everything a reason not to. And I was my own worst enemy. And I thought, you know, just show up. So I did, and I had a great time. So that's my 2 cents.
Nice. Thank you, Noreen. That's beautiful. Fardowsa, go ahead.
Definitely can. I feel the same way at times, and being in different places. And I felt that very much when I went to a networking event, and I was just standing in the corner, very like, I don't know how to network with people. I'm just gonna stand here. But like Noreen said, I had to get out of my own head and really take the challenge head on. I think one of my biggest challenges is realizing how much of the business side I did not know from, because I think when I was a counselor, I never had to do any of the billing. I never really had to think about that. All I had to think about was my patient, doing my progress notes, and that's pretty much it. And now that I am planning to run this business, I've learned a lot, and I think it's just, which the fellowship has been so great at, and this is probably the main reason why I even applied for, is getting the help and the mentorship and the guidance, because obviously we all have passions for the things that we're passionate about, and that we know and that we hold so dear to our heart, that we know we can make it work. But I think just having the safety net of the Initiator Foundation has been very, 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 very helpful. And my opportunity, I think, that for me is, and I think Noreen and oh my goodness, my mind just went blank, guys. I'm sorry. But we, all of us can attest to that like this program has been very amazing, and we've all gotten a lot of opportunities from it, and it's just the beginning too. I've gotten hit with so many different opportunities, and I'm getting distracted by them, and I'm like, nope, stay focused on this project and this, what you're doing right now, and those things you can do them later. And I think that's one of my other challenges, is realizing like yeah, all these things are amazing and I want to do all these things and I want to be a part of these things, but staying focused on this part right now is going to give me the stepping stones to get to those things later on. And if I try to multitask, I might just get lost. I know myself, I get lost in it all. So that's the other thing, is really realizing that I can put some of these opportunities that are coming my way because of the exposure that I'm getting now and put it in the parking lot for later on and come back to it. And yeah, and another challenge / opportunity for me is trying to figure out which population I want to serve. When I first applied for this, I wanted to do outpatient for male and female. Now I'm really just starting to look more of creating an inpatient women's, not just, there's like multiple reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is women are less likely to go into treatment in the regular like America, but in my community is even harder because the families will hide that for them and they don't want their daughters' reputations to be ruined. And it's even harder for them to get treatment. So having a place that they can go to recover and take a pause from the world it's sounding more and more appealing to me and what I want to do. So I have all those things jumping around all the way around, and very thankful for the fellowship. We have 2 years to make this idea more and more and more and more and more like the vision we want it to be, and bring it to life.
Awesome. Thank you all for your answers to those questions. The last one we have for you all, and a reminder to everyone on here, if you have any questions about anything going on, put them in the chat, and you can also send them privately to me, and then we'll ask those after this final question here. And I think the last combination we could do is Noreen, Fardowsa, Nora. So this last one is, how do you think that women can better support you in your quest that you've been sharing with us about today?
I think just showing up. Maybe it's social media, following them, encouraging. I think sometimes too, also look at what you give and what you take. And I'm always happy to help out the next, the handout to the next to pull them up as well. But I think, if you see that woman in her business, and maybe it's buy from them, show your support, send a note. All those things really matter to people. So I think, as real women, too, you wind up being volunteer for the fire department and the township board, and most people are at 3 to 4 boards. You're like, you run out of the room because if you don't, you're going to get a job, which you show up for. But also kind of take on those leadership roles too, and really look at the next generation and even the little people. What are you doing in the schools to make it easier for those girls or the next generation too? I really got my eye on them, because there's a lot of things that they're looking at that you can also help or assist, or maybe it's help fund a little program. I get real annoyed with things, and then I do things because I figure, well, if I don't do them, they're not going to get done. So one of the things that bothered me is just the stupid lawnmower. It just drives me crazy. To sharpen the blades and stuff, I have to load this thing up, take it into the RDO, pay a lot of money to sharpen the stupid blades. It just drives me nuts. So we organized a women's learning on how to do maintenance on a lawnmower. Where's the spark plug, for heaven's sake? I don't even know where that dumb thing is. So figure it all out, for women helping women. So sometimes the questions that you have, like, some of the women were new in our area. They're coming back to the farm. They're under 30. They're fabulous women farmers. Love them. And they were like, I don't even know where the zert is on the combine. So I said, okay, let's do another class on it. So we had like 35 women show up to do this class. all wanting to know the same thing. And so I think too, when you think about things that you want to know, maybe it's, what is the next tax implications? That sounds pretty boring, but you can have somebody speak to your group and just say, hey, who else out there on social media wants to come? And I can't even believe the people that show up. I've never seen them before in my life, and they show up, and it's great. I mean, I had a 70-year-old lady come up and she goes, you know what? I am sick and tired of loading this lawnmower. Thank goodness for this class. She goes, now I can do it myself. And she just felt so proud. And I thought, here she is at 70. She was all puffed up because she could change oil. And I thought, you tell those men that you can do this. I said, but be careful, you might be doing the car soon. So it's just really empowering when you have the skill sets. And sometimes, I get things kind of, mixed up, or I can't put in the right oil or whatever, but I'll figure it out. So I think as women too, to have classes like Jasmine might want to know about something on a business. Well, reach out to women in business and say, well, hey, maybe you could sponsor, maybe the accounting firm could sponsor us for a thing, and we'll have some little snacks and have a great time. So I think also too, to get out of your head, so to speak, make it for other people. Erica was there for our Going Green event with her little solar oven at the time, and we just had the best time ever. So I think just kind of opening that, make a bridge for other people too, especially women. And if they're a little shyer, send them a personal note and say, come on, we'd love to have you come meet with us. So we're always having events on the farm. It kind of drives, my husband goes, no one's going to ever come to that event. And I said, they will. So we had 150 people. So then I said, well, do you want to make the coffee? I'd like you to make the coffee. So he was a believer then. And, if it's real tense sometimes in the room too, like sometimes I'll get some of the men looking at me and I said, well, which one of you is going to make the coffee and bring the dessert, because that's usually a woman's role, right? And they just kind of look at me like, what in the world? But it can also kind of break some of the that you're feeling, and maybe they're feeling a little tense too.
Yeah, go ahead, Fardowsa.
I would say just supporting, just like Noreen said, really, I think the biggest sharing resources and just sharing and being and supportive and being there for each other. I think that's the biggest part. And like Noreen said, also, it's how do we build, not just build, how do we empower younger, even younger, elementary school, middle school, and high school girls to become leaders? Because for me, truly what made me become an entrepreneur is all my life I was hearing, you're such a great leader, you should do this, you should be a great leader. That's all I really heard. Even when it was not great influence, people would point that out to me, and it turned later on into me wanting to be an entrepreneur and me wanting to really be there for my community and support my community and be there for them. And the one thing that I know that also is very helpful is being a mentor. Going into those different communities that is not of yours and going to mentor in those, because there is truly a lack of mentorship in my community, in a lot of different communities, really, truthfully. And being an immigrant child, there's no a generation above me really that's gonna be the safety net. Like I know me and my sisters, all of our friend groups and all the networks that we've done, our kids are gonna have a better chance at networking and a better chance of finding a mentor within my friend group, or at least another friends group, to help mentor my kid or each other's kid. But right now, there's really not a lot of that. And if you're interested in a certain field, unless you go and find somebody that's willing to mentor you, it's a bit harder. So just mentoring, going into different spaces and trying to see, mentoring can be just really having a conversation and going in and doing a presentation about whatever you do and seeing if they're interested in that as well. And really just giving them a different viewpoint than they have. because that was the other part for me, is I went to the Boys and Girls Club a lot when I was younger, and they took us on a lot of trips to different colleges, to different plays, different events in general, that really got me to see outside of my world and outside of just what potentially I could be, because representation matters. What you see is what you think you can become. And not that there was any limitations even set within me, within my family, but it was really like, what you see is what you do. And if you don't have that around you, it's harder. The journey of getting to your goal is a lot harder without having a mentor.
I would just second what Fardowsa and Noreen said. I had this period in my career where I was really looking for a mentor and I couldn't seem to find anyone, but I think mentorship is important, even if you're just asking people for advice or for coffee, that you can get a lot of help that way. I'm personally a supporter of Girl Scouts. I love the Girl Scout organization. Other service groups are helpful for supporting other women. And yeah, I love what Teresa's doing here too. I had a meeting yesterday with someone. I had done a report with her, or I had reported on her organization a couple years ago, and then we met again at one of the 100 Rural Women events, and we had a Zoom call yesterday and chatted for a couple minutes, and then agreed to introduce each other to one other person that, you know, we thought would be helpful. So when I was younger, I used to not like the idea of networking, but now that I'm doing it, it's so functional and helpful and has opened a lot of doors.
Oh, you froze, Nora. All right, I was just gonna give it a second. Maybe we'll come back to Nora.
Partners, but better. Am I back? Sorry.
You're back. You're back.
Okay.
Oh no, you're not back. Okay, well, if you come back again miraculously, right as I'm gonna move on, we'll let you come back. But we have that beautiful question from Caitlin in the chat, and I'm wondering, I was just gonna say, I know we have a smaller group today. We've been getting emails from a lot of people that wanted to be on and are going to be watching the recording, and we're really excited about coming. So, but the benefit of a smaller group is also, I think, that we can ask more questions and be more open about that. So Caitlin, if you're comfortable, do you want to ask your question or add anything as well?
Yeah, so I actually study, so I'm finishing up at Winona State, and I study mass communications, public relations, and then I have 2 minors in sustainability and political science. And I've always kind of wanted to be in a position in which I can lead in a way that empowers others, including women and minorities, just because being in a rural area, I was in a predominantly white community, predominantly male leaders. And not that any of them were necessarily bad or anything, you know, I just didn't really see a lot of representation. And even just being in Winona, you know, there's more exposure there just because it's a larger town than what I came from. I had a population of 600. So Winona to me, 20,000 feels big. And I've had more exposure here, just being able to come to the college, and we have exchange students. And that's been wonderful to see all those different organizations. And then just being able to even expand more as I've been able to network with people in the cities. And so I was just wondering, as someone who comes from a rural area that is looking to find a position for leadership to empower women and minorities, what is one of your best pieces of advice, or a key piece of advice that you could offer to a young woman like myself?
And Nora, maybe if you're okay to start, if you wanted to add anything from what you were saying as you were jumped off, if you're ready to answer that question.
Sure. So I was trying to type my last thought in there, which was just to second what Noreen had said about supporting each other, morally and financially and talking each other up, signing up. Like Noreen has a really fun Facebook page. I'm sure Fardowsa will have fascinating outreach as she kind of gets all her pieces in place. But in terms of advice for helping women pursue leadership, I would just say you be your own style of leader. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm soft-spoken and people have described me as passive, but I've had leadership roles since I was in high school. Like, you don't have to be the loud person at the front of the room to be a leader. So just, yeah, embrace your style, however your personality fits into it, you can be a leader that way.
Noreen, Fardowsa, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll go if that's okay with Fardowsa. Yeah, I think also different leadership styles, kind of find what works for you. And being a really good leader is listening, and listening very, very deep to the concerns, and treat everyone with great respect. And I think sometimes leadership, like for me, I'm very confused by it, because sometimes I have people saying, well, you're a leader. And I'm like, well, I don't know. So I just do things that I'm very passionate about, and also look at who is that woman leader in all of you that you admire. Who is that person? And why do you like that person? And those are, I think, subconsciously where you're really trying to go. So maybe it's, okay, I'm going to make this up. This is kind of hokey, but it's, Princess Diana. I'd liked her. But why did I like her? Because she was kind and she reached to people, that populations that weren't. So with a nutrition degree, one of the first requests I had was AIDS was just starting. And anyway, someone asked me if I come to a group of AIDS highly sensitized. I was an outsider. So you just come from a place of, their interests. And it was the most interesting too, because they kind of opened up to me after a while, because they could see I wasn't going to judge for lifestyle or, any of that. But sometimes a leader is really hard, and it requires a lot of really deep, look at yourself as well. But really look at those, who do you emulate? Have you ever written them a letter? Have you ever said, let's go for coffee? If they're approachable on the state level, they're not like across the pond or such. But you would be surprised how many of those women leaders really don't feel that supportive, like they're not supported that much. I mean, they kind of get it, but when they're at the top of their game, sometimes that's a very difficult place to be. So I think I'd reach out, I would volunteer, who is that person? Is that, a senator or whatever? Maybe you can do some research for them, or maybe you can volunteer some time to watch them. Because what I'm saying is I have a very talented chef, and he didn't go to chef training school. What he did is he went to work for the best chefs in the nation, learned what he could, and came back with this amazing experiences. So I think getting those experiences too, and trying out your role, Caitlin, and the rest of you too, try it out. It might be what you really want or what you think you want. Those are two separate different things until you're in it. Because I thought at one time I kind of like politics, but I thought, no, I really don't. So, I could be a supporter, but now I'm, nope, they drive me crazy, even in the township. Don't ever tell them that, but just, or the ladies at church, complaining about, should we butter the buns or not butter the buns? I mean, I'll just lose my mind. So, just, so I think they outed me, honestly, but anyway, trying different things, hop in Teresa's group and say, what do you need help with? Is it communications I want to try out? Oh man, I really hate that, or I like it. So just try out those little parcels and maybe vignettes, little here or there. I think it just really enriches and go out for coffee with somebody. You said, hey, can I go out for coffee? And they'll be like, what do you want? It's like, well, I just want to talk to you about your experiences, and then ask them, what's your hard part of your job? So I think those things might be hard for you, and you can do it over a Zoom too. So that's sorry, I must have had.
Oh, that's all right. Anything you want to add, Fardowsa?
Yes, I would just say lead with empathy and be curious. Those are the two things that I think would be. Even I was doing a training a while ago, and I think it was LeaderCast or something like that. It was training for work that I was doing, and they said the best leaders are ones that have empathy for their employees, for just have empathy for in every regard of what they're doing, because sometimes you forget when you're the leader what the people in the front line are doing, and keeping yourself in a place of understanding where they've been, where whoever you're leading or whatever or even their lived experiences. Everyone has different lived experiences, especially people of color. And even if you're an immigrant, everything that you went through, everything that all the trauma, all that is there. And just being empathetic and being curious, like even if you don't understand it, be curious and ask a question. That will be less offensive than you saying, so why are you doing that? That will bring somebody's defenses up quicker than you just asking, hey, I'm curious, why did you do it this way? I want to understand. And that's part of me. That's what I do a lot with my patients, is I don't say anything or do anything that's going to bring their defenses up, because once somebody's defenses up, it's really hard to get them to understand you or to even see your point of view, or even try to give advice to whatever the problem might be. So I always just approach it from I'm curious. Why is this happening this way? Why is this? Just be curious to ask questions, and then you won't offend anybody, or they won't feel offended.
Awesome. Thank you all. I feel like I could have done an interview with all of you. I wanted to learn more about all of them. It also struck me that all three of you are touching on so many important issues that are happening in rural places in general. I mean, mental health and opioid epidemic and media and farming and climate change, all of these things that in my work that I do in economic development, I feel like I'm hearing about all the time. So it's very beautiful and empowering to hear about all of the work that you're doing to address these issues that we keep hearing about, these divisive issues in some ways. So thank you for all being here. I'm going to quick pass it to Emma. I know we're right at 9:30, so she just has some final words to add. Thank you all.
Yeah, I just want to echo Erica. This has been such a full and fulfilling session, and I just am so impressed by you women and so grateful that we get to share the space with you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for being here. Jasmine has put in a survey in the chat. Please fill it out. We really value your feedback so that we can do more of these webinars and hold more of these spaces. A couple of really quick plugs. We have a report coming out for our 100 and 100 project this summer. So look for that. We have some really exciting findings that we want to share with you. I also want to plug that we are building a mentorship network of elected women, and that will be something that Jasmine will be spearheading, and you will learn more about that later this summer too. As always, please show up to our meetings. We also have the 100 and 100 linked somewhere in the chat, and we would love to see you at any of them. We have an Ask a Leading Woman this Friday with Senator Julie Rosen, June 10th, which is going to be amazing, 10 a.m. So please register for that. Book club tonight. Yeah, just connect with us, and we would love to hear from you, any feedback you have. So yeah.